You see a duck that looks like this at your local pond, and you think you know exactly what it is. But what if I told you that in the world of ducks, looks can be, well, really deceiving? Let's dive in. So take a good look at this bird. We've all seen one, right? The green head, the gray body. It's a classic mallard. Case closed. Or is it? What if I told you what you're looking at isn't a mallard at all? Yeah, that's right. Not even close. This, my friends, is a Rouen duck. It's a completely different bird. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can become the expert who can spot one from a mile away. All right, so let's break this down. We're about to uncover all the key details that separate your everyday mallard from its heavyweight cousin, the Rouen. Let's start with the most jaw-dropping difference, their size. A wild mallard, they top out at about 3 pounds. But in exhibition Rouen, they can tip the scales at a whopping 12 pounds. Just think about that for a second. That's not just a little bigger, that's a bird that can be literally 4 times heavier. This is your first and biggest clue, for sure. And get this, the differences start right from day one. If you look really close at the ducklings, you can spot this super subtle giveaway. A mallard duckling usually has just one dark stripe running through its eye. But a Rouen duckling, a lot of them have a second kind of faint stripe just below it. It's a tiny detail, but it tells a huge story. And it's not just about the weight. Their entire build is on another level. All that bulk means Rouens are pretty much grounded. A mallard can burst into the air, no problem. A Rouen? The best it can do is a clumsy sort of hop and flutter. And check out their shape. It's less sporty, more industrial. They've got this deep, rectangular, almost boat-like body. Now, to really understand that boat-like shape, we got to talk about something called the keel. In the bird world, this is basically the breastbone area. A really deep keel is what gives a bird that low-slung, heavy-duty look, and it is the absolute hallmark of an exhibition Rouen. And just how deep are we talking? Well, on a top-tier, prize-winning Rouen, that keel is so massive that it can actually drag on the ground when it waddles. This is a bird that has been bred purely for show-stopping presence, not for getting anywhere fast. So you might be asking, how on earth did we end up with a duck that looks like a mallard on steroids? Well, the story actually spans 2 different countries and 2 very different ideas about what a duck should be. The whole story kicks off in France, near the city of Rouen. Back then, it was a prized meat bird, practical and useful. But then, in the 19th century, it gets brought over to England, and everything changes. British breeders got obsessed with size and looks. They selectively bred for a massive frame and that super deep keel, all for the prestige of winning poultry shows. And because of that history, we've ended up with 2 totally different types of Rouen today. You've got your production or utility type, which is closer to its French roots. They're a bit smaller, often called a fat mallard. And then you have the standard or exhibition type, the British creation. These are the absolute giants, the ones with a deep keel that can take up to 1.5 years to fully mature. But it's not just their bodies that are different. Their whole personality is in a league of its own. This is where the Rouen really earns that gentle giant title. I found this quote that just absolutely nails their personality. It says, if you want a duck that'll forage aggressively, get a runner. But if you want a duck that will sit by your feet and nap, get a Rouen. I mean, how great is that? They're famously calm, super docile, and yeah, maybe just a little bit lazy. Of course, being that big isn't always easy. It comes with some real challenges. They can be kind of risky as moms, sometimes crushing their own eggs by accident because they're so heavy. And all that weight on their feet makes them prone to a nasty infection called bumblefoot, which means they need some extra care, like really soft, dry places to hang out. Facts and figures are one thing, but nothing tells you about a breed's character quite like the stories people share. And there are some really great ones that bring the Rouen personality to life. Okay, so check this out. There's this incredible story about a Rouen owner who, and this is heartbreaking, lost most of their flock to predators because the birds just couldn't fly away. But one male, one single Rouen, survived. For years, all by himself. Somehow, this bird, who's not supposed to be able to fly, had figured out how to get just enough air to escape danger. Talk about defying your own genetics. And then there's this other story about a duck named Eunice, who had a neck condition. Because Rouens are so slow and chill, they often end up at the very bottom of the flock's pecking order. And Eunice would just patiently wait for all the other more aggressive birds to finish eating before she'd quietly take her turn. It just perfectly sums up their sweet, non-confrontational souls. So they're bigger, they're built differently, and they have a unique history and an amazing personality. The next time you're at the park and you see what looks like a supersized mallard waddling by, I want you to look a little closer. Check for that boat-like body, that low-slung walk, because you might just be looking at a true aristocrat of the duck world.